There's a thing that I've seen in my sessions that lends itself to a very amazing satanic attack when you're watching it versus being the victim of it. I want you to try and experiment in the next little while and almost randomly ask someone, hey, what do you want? This question has become pretty prominent in our culture. What do you want for lunch? What do you want for dinner? What do you want to do on the weekend? 100 years ago, when the pioneers were crossing the plains, the question hardly ever was, what do you want? The question was, what do we need? Our parents were never asked, what do you want for breakfast? They made what they had, they put it on the table, you either ate it or you starved, because that's the reality of our lives. It wasn't because they were being mean. If we were having oatmeal for breakfast for the seventh day in a row, it was because it's the only thing that we could afford. They didn't ask kids, what do you want to do after school today? Because we already had a whole farm worth of work to do, so that there was no options of asking, what do you want? When you do ask the question, what is wanted, you open yourself up to a second satanic attack. Our brains don't automatically ask the question, what do you want, toward our value system, toward long-term things, principles, stewardships, etc. This well-meaning parenting philosophy called love and logic is actually part of the problem. What they did is they would train the child to think in terms of preferences. Do you want to wear the red shirt or the green shirt? There were still some positive elements to it because it gave the parent some element of control, and it did empower the child with some decision-making capabilities. So there was a lot of good that came from the love and logic concept. But the question was rarely, what do we need to get done today? I invite you to set a little alarm in your head to listen for what questions are asked in your brain. So here are the three questions that I invite you to listen for. How often does the question, what do I need to do today to fulfill stewardships? How often is a short-term, not values-based want surface? I want a piece of chocolate. I want to avoid work. And how often do you hear of wants around long-term values-based? Now, some of you are going to do it and go, I didn't find any thinking errors. 80% of the time I think about what needs to be done, and 15% of the time that's left, I think about what I want long-term, and I only experience about 5% of the time wants that are more impulsive. I'm all, congratulations for you. You're probably going to be attacked by Satan in a different way. He'll probably try some torment technique or one of the other 7 that we've talked about so far. But for those of us who experience temptation, and my definition of temptation is when you're asked what you want, or it's been suggested to want something outside of your value system. We have Esau, who, as far as I can tell, this one was really a ripoff for him in some ways, because it wasn't like he was just having a regular day. So Satan tempts him on a day when he actually is starving. I actually am tired. I just want to eat something. But let's look at the lesson to be learned from that. How often are we tempted when we are compromised? The whole chemical scale concept suggests and refers to Satan's most effective temptations come at level 3, not at level 1. In the Esau story, he was feeling a nice, easy to observe physical pain. What kind of pain are you in when you're likely to fall to a temptation? We have scientists who come up with cool things like the BLAST, an acronym: bored, lonely, angry, scared, tired. I don't know what all 5 of those are for different people, but they are common emotions that people feel when they're vulnerable to temptation. And by temptation, we're not talking about cookies and or pornography all the time. One of my temptations of the past is unleashing with anger on my adolescent son. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because when we look at the phrase inviteth and enticeth, are we talking about the Holy Ghost or Satan? Yeah, both. What desirest thou? Isn't that a want type question? What do you want? If you ask Laman and Lemuel, what type of want question are they interpreting that into? With a little bit of help from the dark side to twist it a little bit. I just want food. I want comfort in the home. I want popularity. There's lots of wants that could be listed there. But when Nephi is asked, what desirest thou? He wants something weird, like clarification on his father's revelations. I'm thinking about Laman and Lemuel, like, who comes up with stuff like that? Why would you even think of wanting that? Of all the things you could want right now, when I could use a nice fat slice of pizza, and you're saying I want clarification on a revelation? Human beings find it effortless to want things that are contrary to their value system. I don't even have to try to want something that ruins my stewardships. Okay, those ideas just come out of nowhere and they flow smoothly. I found it annoying when I realized that almost every useful thought I have actually has to be planted and cultivated for it to grow. One of the hardest things to teach our warriors in Sons of Haven and Men of Moroni is if you're ever going to maintain momentum long term, you have to create a system of planting healthy wants and nurturing them on purpose, intentionally. Do you have a system in place where you're planting desires that don't come natural and you have a nurturing system for those desires? Interesting. The war between remembering and forgetting. We have to have an intentional reminder system. One of my discernment tools is if a thought or desire comes easily, it's probably not inspired. If I have to work to plant it and nurture it, it probably is inspired. And I'm all, are you kidding me? That's the discerning tool? Well, most plants, if you're going to eat them, probably have to be planted and nurtured. And the things you shouldn't eat are things that grow all by themselves. You can do an experiment sometime. Cut your garden in half, and on one half of it, cultivate it, nurture it, plant it, etc. And the other half don't. And then try eating this stuff on the side where you don't plant and nurture it. See how yummy that is and how uplifting it is. Same is true of the human brain. If there's no evidence that you cultivated a place for it, you found the seeds, you planted the seeds, you nurtured the seeds, then whatever you're harvesting probably is not healthy. And if you desire to harvest something amazing, plan on a nice season, 3 months at least, of nurturing before any really brilliant ideas can be harvested from your thinking. I've got lots of men who want to choke me to death on this idea. 3 months? Are you kidding me? 3 months of working on something before I get anything amazing in response? You will come up with your own method for it, your own recipe, your own system for it, but you will have to approach it like a farmer. That is the one thing that's a consistent across the board. Nobody gets to harvest revelation on a regular basis, on a seasonal basis, if they don't farm it. So you might get one freebie, but I'll just tell you this, it probably won't be fun. Okay. Even Joseph Smith's first vision was after cultivating a desire to gain it. Okay.